Being branded a failure eventually stops stinging. Over time, it fades into a dull hum, like background noise at family gatherings. That's what I told myself as I approached my parents' house for our traditional Thanksgiving dinner. I'm Catherine Bennett, Cathy to my family, usually uttered with a hint of disappointment, as though my very existence was an inconvenience. My coat could have bought their house outright, yet I'd chosen something understated, modest. No need to reveal my cards just yet. Look who decided to show, my sister Diana called from the doorway. The family failure has arrived. I forced a polite smile, my mind flicking to the stack of documents on my office desk. If only she knew how prophetic today would be, how utterly everything was about to shift. Inside, the house was a gallery of the usual: Uncle Peter, my father's partner at Bennett Manufacturing, Aunt Margaret, whose favorite pastime was comparing Diana's achievements to my supposed shortcomings, and cousins James and Laura, both mid-level managers at the company, convinced of their destined greatness. Cathy, my mother greeted, kissing my cheek. Couldn't you have worn something nicer? It's Thanksgiving, dear. I thought of my 3 Manhattan boutiques. This coat was as good as it got. Well, she said with a sigh, at least you came. Diana says you're still doing that little online clothing thing. Before I could respond, Diana interjected, sparkling diamonds catching the light. Not just clothing, Mom. Cathy flips designer pieces online, like a thrift store, but high-end. She tilted her head, feigning concern. How's that going? Making ends meet? If only she knew. Bennett Manufacturing was bleeding cash, suppliers were abandoning ship, and bankruptcy was imminent. My little online thing was actually Eclipse Luxury Group, a powerhouse in luxury retail. But they had no idea. I get by, I said softly, accepting a glass of wine from my father. Getting by isn't the Bennett way, he said proudly. Look at Diana, youngest VP in company history. Look at James and Laura climbing the ladder. That's what success looks like. I sipped my wine to hide my smile. Their Bennett way had led the company straight toward ruin. While they celebrated titles and ignored reality, I'd quietly built an empire. Speaking of success, Diana bubbled, wait until you hear. We're expanding. 3 new facilities next year. Dad's even thinking of taking the company public. I nearly choked. They were plotting growth while drowning in debt. Ambitious, I said, carefully neutral. Of course, you wouldn't get it. Uncle Peter chimed in, patronizing as ever. Business strategy isn't your forte, Cathy. Not everyone can handle the intricacies of a real company. Laughter rippled through the room. Poor Cathy, the one who'd walked away from the family business 5 years ago after they offered her a mailroom role to learn the ropes. Remember when she suggested going online? James snickered. Said retail was changing. Or when she pitched that luxury platform. What was it called? Laura asked. Eclipse Luxury Group, I said softly. That's it. Diana laughed. Imagine if we'd listened, probably bankrupt by now. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to check. The alert confirmed it. Bennett Manufacturing had just filed for Chapter 11. Dinner's ready, my mother called from the dining room. Everyone, please find your seats. The formal dining room was perfectly arranged. Diana perched beside my father, of course. I slid between Laura and Aunt Margaret, as far from the head of the table as possible. So, Cathy, Aunt Margaret began, passing the turkey, have you thought about getting a real job? Walmart's hiring. More laughter. I carved my turkey, thinking back to 5 years ago, when they tried to demote me to the mailroom. I'd been in acquisitions, armed with an MBA and proposals to modernize the company. But Uncle Peter had convinced my father that I wasn't ready for real responsibility. The mailroom will teach you humility, he had said. Instead, I walked away. I sold my shares back to the family for a fraction of their value, shares that, by tomorrow, would be worthless. I took that money and invested in a small but promising luxury retail venture called Eclipse. Today, Eclipse Luxury Group operated 30 high-end boutiques, 6 online platforms, and was on the verge of acquiring its first manufacturing company. I set down my fork. Actually, there's something I've been meaning to discuss about business. Oh, not this again, my mother groaned. Yes, because your business advice was so flawless last time, Diana said with a smirk. That Eclipse company you were obsessed with, didn't it get bought out? It did, I confirmed calmly. By Morgan Holdings. Diana turned to Dad, triumphant. See? Thank goodness we ignored her advice. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out deliberately, feigning casual interest. Everything all right? My father asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Some emergency at your little resale shop? No, I said smoothly. Just confirming that Bennett Manufacturing's Chapter 11 filing has been accepted by the court. The room froze. Diana's fork clattered to her plate. What did you just say? My father's voice was dangerously quiet. I chewed deliberately before replying. Your bankruptcy filing was approved. Chapter 11. Though with your debt, it won't stay Chapter 11 for long, it's likely to convert to Chapter 7 soon. That's impossible, Uncle Peter stammered. How could you possibly know? I smiled. Oh, I forgot to mention. Morgan Holdings, the company that acquired Eclipse? That's mine. I own it. Just like I own nearly all of Bennett Manufacturing's debt. Silence hit the room like a hammer. The same room that had been filled with laughter minutes ago was now deathly quiet. My father went pale. Diana's perfect makeup looked garish against her slack-jawed expression. You're lying, Uncle Peter finally croaked. This has to be a joke. I reached into my modest bag, the one they'd mocked all evening, and pulled out a folder. Actually, I brought the paperwork. Want to see it? The bankruptcy filing, debt acquisition records, everything. I spread the documents beside the cranberry sauce. Notice this page, the list of creditors. Morgan Holdings owns 82% of your outstanding debt. But, that's impossible, Diana whispered. You just run a small online resale shop. I laughed softly. Is that what you think I've been doing for the last 5 years? While you mocked me, I built Eclipse Luxury Group into a $3.2 billion empire. Morgan Holdings, my private investment firm, is even bigger. $3.2 billion? Laura choked on her wine. Give or take a few million, I shrugged. It's been a good quarter. My father's voice quivered with barely contained fury. If this is true, if you really own our debt, why? Why hurt your own family? Family? I said, placing my wine glass down carefully. The same family that tried to demote me to the mailroom after my MBA? The family that laughed at every modernization plan I made? The family that calls me a failure at every holiday? My phone buzzed again, right on cue. Excuse me, I said, standing. I need to take this. Probably my assistant with the final documents. I stepped into the hallway, leaving them in stunned silence. From the doorway, I could hear their panicked whispers. She's bluffing. Check the accounts. Call the lawyers. I smiled as I answered. Yes, Jennifer. Everything is set. Bankruptcy filing processed, asset acquisition offer ready. Shall I send the team in? Give them 5 minutes, I said. Let them absorb the news first. When I returned, they were clustered around Uncle Peter's phone, frantically scanning accounts and legal documents. Well, I said pleasantly, shall we discuss the next steps? My team will be here shortly with acquisition proposals. My team? My mother whispered, bewildered. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. I checked my watch. Perfect timing. My lawyers and financial advisors had arrived. Advisors, I said, a small smile playing on my lips. I hope you don't mind if they join us for dessert. We have quite a bit to cover. Hold on just a second, my father said, rising, trying to assert some authority. You can't just Actually, I interrupted smoothly, I can. Your company is bankrupt. You've defaulted on $142 million in loans I now own. You have two options: cooperate with me on an orderly sale and restructuring, or I start liquidation first thing Monday. Diana's mascara streaked down her cheeks as she began to cry. I cut through the tension for her. Those expansion plans, the new facilities, none of that was ever going to happen. The company has been insolvent for months. Did nobody read the reports, or were you too busy promoting family and planning parties to notice the bleeding finances? Jennifer led my team into the dining room, 3 lawyers and 2 financial advisors, all carrying briefcases thick with documents. The contrast between their sharp professionalism and my family's stunned expressions was almost comical. Miss Bennett, one lawyer said, nodding politely. Shall we begin? I gestured to the dessert spread. Help yourselves to some pumpkin pie while we go over the details. My mother's recipe is surprisingly good. For the next 2 hours, we methodically reviewed Bennett Manufacturing's collapse and my acquisition proposal. Months of careful planning had led to this moment, buying their debt through multiple entities while they dug themselves ever deeper into insolvency. This is thorough, Uncle Peter admitted, scanning the documents. Unlike some people, I replied lightly. I actually understand business strategy. By the time we were done, their empire had crumbled, and mine had grown even stronger. I'd offered terms that were fair, more than fair, but left no doubt about who was in charge now. One last thing, I said as my team packed up. Diana, James, Laura, clean out your offices by Monday. Your positions are eliminated in the restructuring. You're firing us? Diana shrieked. Your own family? No, I said calmly. I'm letting go of underqualified executives who got their jobs through nepotism. If it helps, I hear Walmart is hiring. I straightened my dress and added, thank you for dinner, Mom. The turkey was excellent, though we didn't have much time to finish it. Business calls. Cathy, my father's voice stopped me at the door. Was this all revenge? I turned to face him, and the rest of them. No, Dad. This was business. Revenge is just an added bonus. As I walked to my car, Diana wailed about mortgages and memberships she'd lose. James raged about lawyers and retaliation, but they had nothing left to fight with. I slid into my car, not some modest sedan as they'd assumed, but a sleek Mercedes S-Class I'd had delivered for this very moment. They watched me leave from the dining room window, silent and defeated. My phone buzzed. Jennifer's message, congratulations, Miss Bennett. Acquisition announcement ready for Monday. I smiled. Next Thanksgiving would be very different. Would they still call me the family failure when I owned their company? Mock my little online venture while unemployed? Somehow, I doubted it. 1 week later, Bennett Manufacturing became Eclipse Manufacturing, a new subsidiary of my empire. I kept the original logo my grandfather had designed, adding a small eclipse mark, a permanent reminder of how the family failure had eclipsed them all. Diana eventually found work at a department store, close to Walmart. James and Laura had to leave the state to find new jobs, their resumes tarnished by Bennett Manufacturing's collapse. Uncle Peter retired in quiet shame. My father called once about a month later. He left a voicemail that started with, I was wrong about you, and ended with a job request. I had my assistant send him the standard rejection letter we give all unsuccessful applicants. The following Thanksgiving, I skipped the family dinner. I was too busy running all my companies, including the one that used to be their pride. Instead, I sent each a card with the Eclipse Manufacturing logo and a note. Thankful for the lessons you taught me about real business. Hope you're enjoying your real jobs. Sometimes, success is the sweetest revenge. Sometimes, the family failure becomes the family nightmare. And sometimes, karma comes with a slice of pumpkin pie.